evening, everyone, and welcome to Afrobeat Live. My name is Fadike Ashirubalogun, and if you're wondering where Jetty and the rest of the crew are, well, we had to postpone their show, and in a few minutes, I will explain why. For many of our viewers who are Nigerians, or for those who are not Nigerians but follow Nigerian politics, you will know that in 2019, Nigeria will be electing a new president. So it was a no-brainer for our team to postpone the Jetty show because of our very special guest tonight. With me in the studio is Pastor Tayo Tychus of Abundant Life Chapel, yes, and Carl Omashola.
Good evening, everybody. I'm glad that you can join us this evening for a wonderful show. As Fadike, our lovely host here, has mentioned, this is a very, very special show. Tonight we have a very special guest in the house. Actually, two guests in the house. One is Pastor Tayo Tychus of Abundant Life Chapel,
Glad to be here.
ALC, who's been here before. We had a fantastic time with you last time you were here.
Yes.
We hope to have you back again very, very soon.
Sure.
Come on, break with us the word of yes, God and encourage us in the Lord in these trying times.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Right. So he's one of our special guests tonight. The other guest we have is a friend of mine, a brother, a leader, somebody who I've looked up to and we've all looked up to, who is now a 2019 Nigeria presidential aspirant, Mr. Fela Durotoye.
Well,
welcome.
I can't believe you're here, man.
I am here, and it's great to see you, Kadike.
Welcome.
Thank you, Carl, Tayo, the entire Afrobeat Live crew, and everyone who's listening out there. It's great to be here. I'm really happy to be here.
So you guys are in for a treat because not only do we have him here tonight, here in our studios, but we also have him on Friday at a special town hall. Now, for those who heard Fela before speak, you know that it's very captivating, it's very deep, it's very energizing. You leave that town hall better than you came in.
Absolutely.
It's going to be on Friday. It's going to be at 7 o'clock. Is it 8 o'clock? 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Friday.
I can't wait to be there. I will share the details of that as we go through the program itself. But make sure this is part one. There's part two. And there's also part 3 on Sunday, where Pastor Tayo is going to be hosting him in his church for their 1-year anniversary. So you have three helpings of our future president of Nigeria to enjoy. But while we're here today, we're going to spend the next hour and a half or hour to really talk about some questions about what his candidacy means, what his aspiration means, what he intends to achieve, what inspired him to run for this very, very complex office of being Nigeria's president and learn more about who he is and explain those things. So fasten your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited. I don't know if you are. You can tell that I'm hungry for more, and then we'll get started. Our phone number is
what is the 202? What's the number? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's 202-681-0389. You can call in with your questions, your comments, whatever you have to say. Just feel free to call in, or you can send us a message on Facebook. We're live on Facebook, so just feel free to send in your comments. Now, we don't want any trolls. Just make sure you send us real comments, and Mr. Fela will be glad to answer your questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's get started. Fela, I know you, but can you talk about who you are to us so people can know you out there?
Well, I would say I always introduce myself as Fela Durotoye, a nation builder. And many people say, look, what do you mean a nation builder? I say, well, nation builders are people who have literally 4 key characteristics. I call them A, B, C, D. A nation builder is someone who, A, has accepted responsibility for the well-being of his nation. Not just his own personal well-being or his family well-being, but the well-being of his nation. Meaning that no matter how well a nation builder is doing, if his nation is not doing well, then he's not doing well enough. That's who I am. Number 2, I am B. I believe in the greatness of my nation. And I also believe in my generation's ability to bring forth that greatness. I believe that the greatness of Nigeria is currently a potential. It's something we can be but have not yet become. But I also believe that potential is not a blessing. The blessing is a potential, but the potential is a challenge to our generation. And it's a challenge for our generation to be able to turn that potential into reality. That's why nation builders will do the third thing. So I've talked about A, accept, B, believe, but nation builders commit. That's what C is. They commit their time, their energy, their resources. They commit everything they have. Literally commit their life. So nation building is not something you do on the side, as I soon realized over time. But I'll tell you a bit about the background of myself. But you got to commit everything you have. Why? Because until you commit, you cannot determine to do everything you can to deliver the future of that nation. You have to understand, when I say the future is not a time zone that is yet to come. The future is everything you can do but have not yet done. The future is everything you can be but have not yet become. The future is everything you can have but haven't possessed. As a nation, our future is incredible. You know it. I know it. There's so much that Nigeria can. We're one of the most blessed nations in the world. And yet we haven't come into the reality of that future. Now, the future is not ahead of us. It's inside of us. That's why we have to deliver the future. So I am a nation builder. But my background is, let me say, I was born 46 years ago, almost 47 years. My birthday is in the month of May. So I was born in 1971. In 1970, my parents were lecturers in the University of Toronto in Canada. And the supposed story that goes around that my mom told me was that sometime in the month, I think she must have been about 6 or 7 months pregnant, my father had a dream. And because of that dream, he woke my mom up and said, this one we have to take home. What my mom said was that this one is a special one. That's what he said. And she said, we have to take him home. So at literally very late term pregnancy, my mom and literally got on the plane at that time. And it's not like now that you just get on a Delta. It was a journey. And so whilst I was conceived in Toronto, Canada, I was born in Oluyole, Ibadan. and when my father was asked, what do we name this child? He chested out and said, his name is Adetokunbo. We brought him up from our board. And I grew up very angry, very, very angry, because I thought I was cheated out of what should have been my lawful rights to be a Canadian citizen. It's very interesting that if I had been a Canadian citizen today, I would either have had to renounce it, that citizenship, to be able to do what it is that I now realize is what is ahead of me. Because you cannot be a president of a nation when you bear the citizenship of another. But this is the big deal, though. For so long when I was growing up, I used to think that my father, why would you treat someone badly when if I'm supposed to be the special one, is this how you treat the special one? Yeah. But you would also realize that the time in 1971, right, my father couldn't have thought that he was doing me any harm coming to have me here in Nigeria, right? Because at that time, the Nigerian pound exchanged for $3.
Right. Wow, incredible.
If you graduated as your father and my mom, Carl, they were classmates. Yeah. When you graduated from University College of Ibadan, you did not need any further examination to get into a master's degree in any of the Ivy League schools in the United Kingdom, Oxford, Cambridge. You didn't need to do your BSc was as good as any other.
Equivalent to it.
Equivalent. Yeah. Okay. So when you take a look at all of these things, for instance, at that time, nobody would have thought that coming to have a child at home was going to prove to be a disadvantage. But something happened. And over time, that has been what my life has been committed to, is how do we then fix back this nation? I'm married to a beautiful, 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 beautiful girl.
And that was going to be my next question. So when you told your wife, when you said, Tara, I have something to tell you, I want to run for president, did she say, Fela, you finally lost it? Or was she like, okay, baby, I got you?
Well, I think it was almost like, look, you know what, when are you going to do this thing that God has asked you to do? Because you are agonizing and you're dying inside, but you're trying to fight this thing. Everybody is telling you this thing is going to happen. So when are you going to go and pray? The real journey to this whole conversation started sometime in, I think it was the 20th of November, 2016. I was actually consulting for a company in the southern part of Nigeria, NLNG. Some people know NLNG is a Nigerian liquefied natural gas company. And I had gone to do some work for them. I was doing leadership retreats across the board for them. And a gentleman had called me who was the chairman of a party in Nigeria, not one of the big parties, but a party. So, and he had asked me if I know another gentleman. So I said, yeah. He said, well, he's going to call you. Please take what he says seriously. So I thought, okay. Unfortunately, the guy didn't call me for a few minutes, and I was going to sleep because we had to wake up 7 a.m. to start the work the next day. When I woke up, I looked at my phone, and a text message had come in, and this gentleman had said, look, we want you to seriously consider running for president in 2019 because 2 parties have agreed to have you as a consensus candidate.
Wow.
So initially, I couldn't say he wasn't serious because the person who called me was the chairman of a political party. So I knew that one party was already there. So I forwarded the thing to my wife. And the first thing she got back to me and she said, what is this? Is this 419? So I said to her, no. This is for real. And it just started a conversation. And of course, the thing was, she had asked me, are you going to pray about it? And I said, no, I'm not going to pray about it. And she said, why? I said, because I don't want to pray about it. She said, are you scared? And she said, are you worried that God is going to tell you to do it? And I'm not going to tell you what God said. But I'm here.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Afrobeat Live. We are here special today with 2019 Nigerian presidential aspirant Fela Durotoye. So much to unpack from the first 5 minutes. I don't know where to even start from, but it's good to have you here, Fela. Great to see you here. And Ambassador, good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
Question for you. What is your vision for Nigeria? So let's say by the year 2030, in your mind's eye, what do you see about Nigeria? Where do you see Nigeria?
Well, by 2030, I see Nigeria as a nation that reflects the true capacity of a blessed nation. Everybody knows Nigeria is blessed. There are very few nations in the world that are as blessed as Nigeria. But Nigeria has not shown that it is a blessed nation. I see Nigeria as a nation where things are working. And things are not just working because a few people have, some capacity to make it work. Things are working for everyone. I mean, I see Nigeria as a nation where things are working. I see Nigeria as a nation where people are working to make things work. In other words, I see Nigeria as a nation where people, literally everyone, has equal opportunity to try to do something that will build the nation. Because we're excited about what it is that we're doing. I see Nigeria as a nation that by 2030, we are already seeing the results of the work that we are doing. We're seeing what will literally be a miracle as far as the world is concerned.
Amazing. I mean, what I hear in my mind is restoration of our national identity.
No, and not only that, a national dignity. I see in 2030 a nation where the people, Nigerians, are grateful to be Nigerians.
Yeah.
They understand that, listen, I come from a blessed nation and I am blessed to be to have been born or to be associated with this nation. I see a nation where people are proud to say I'm Nigerian. I see a nation where nations are looking up to Nigeria. And it's something that should happen today. Just whilst I was coming in, I was on the immigration queue with a gentleman who happened to be deputy minister for power for one of our neighboring countries. And the guy was saying to me, Fela, when is Nigeria going to take its leadership position? He says, look, the whole of Africa is looking up to Nigeria, but Nigeria is down there. We can't look. We have to fix that.
Well, how do you intend to do that? Because the average mindset of an average Nigerian is, oh, Nigeria is cursed, there's no hope for this nation. How do you intend to change the mindset of the people?
Well, I think the facts are there. And this is the first thing. I think that, yes, there is a narrative that gets everybody to feel like, Nigeria is cursed. But I always say to people, Nigeria is blessed, but we have not yet been a blessing to Nigeria. It is the people that have not been a blessing to Nigeria. Nigeria has been good to us. We haven't been good to Nigeria. Okay? And so one of the first things that we are going to have to do is to, again, share and let people know truly that this is what we can be. Nobody argues when you really look at it and say, can we be? I mean, there are 4 questions I typically ask everyone when I engage. Number 1, are you happy with the way things are? The overwhelming answer is no. Number 2 is, do you want Nigeria to be better? The overwhelming answer is yes. Number 3 is, can we be better? if we try to make it work? The overwhelming answer is yes. Number 4 is, what are you willing to do to make it happen?
Yeah.
Once you streamline the mind frame of people around the core questions, and you change the questions that people ask, then you find out that the answers are pretty straightforward. Wow. And I can tell you that if we ask the same questions tonight, every single person that is listening is going to say the same thing.
Wow. So, Mr. Fela, so 70% of the population in Nigeria is under 30, right?
Yes, indeed.
So how do you plan to motivate and get such a young demographic ready for the transition, really, and the change, especially since all they've been used to is the Godfather syndrome, without calling names, and, is only these people, and power, goes from this person to that person by virtue of birth, or someone picking and selecting and saying, this is the one. How do you plan to change that narrative?
Well, first thing is, let me say that it's just an extension of what we've been doing over the last 13 years. I mean, most people, Tyler, yourself, Carl, that I've been engaging the young people, and not just young people, but professionals, but essentially getting people to believe. I think the greatest challenge for them before was, how will it happen? Until it became clear to me that what everybody was waiting for was a trigger. And that trigger is, so let me put it this way. Everybody knows that Nigeria can be a great nation, but there is no nation in the world that has ever been truly great without good governance.
True.
What people couldn't tell was, how will we ever get to good governance when we have power brokers whose core interest is how to perpetuate their own self-interest as opposed to the common interest of the people. And then what do you do? How do you perpetuate this? So the answer to that was that we knew that the following things had to happen. Number 1, we needed to get a critical mass of good people into governance. And meaning good people that would run for office, win, and be able to deliver. The second thing is that you needed to get good people who will not receive bribe, who will vote for those who they want to deliver good governance for them.
But do you think that's possible, though?
Oh, yeah, the numbers tell us that it is. So I'll give you very interesting figures there. In 2015 elections, 98 people were above the age of 18. Okay? Out of the 98 million people that were above the age of 18 in Nigeria, which means that they're eligible to vote, only 68 million people got their voters' cards, whether temporary or permanent, right? But out of the 68 million that got voters' card, only 28 million votes, or 8.5 million votes, were cast. Now, I didn't say 28 million voters because you and I know that it wasn't every vote that was cast by a valid human being. But let's even assume that every vote that was cast as a bona fide voter. That means that 40 million people that went as far as registering to vote decided that it wasn't going to be worth their while. Right? There is a reason why those people did not vote. What is the reason? In most cases, as we've done the research, it was because they didn't believe in either of the candidates that were being put forward. And in many cases, because they also were not part of choosing those candidates. Right? This is the thing that the selectocracy system misses. That when people don't choose the candidate, they don't feel also obliged to go there to vote for them.
Right.
All right? So when you look at it, 40 million people did not vote that could have voted because they had voters card. Then another 30 million people did not even bother to go and get their voters card. So that tells you that 70 million people did not vote or participate in the process. Those guys are the guys that we're trying to activate now. And what they just want to do is they want to see credible aspirants, and they just want to know that the system is likely to work. So how are we going to get credible aspirants? Well, that's part of what my work is, to trigger that whole process. And today we're seeing fresh aspirants rise, young people, you're seeing Alista Shoyode, you're seeing oh, come on, what's this guy's name? Professor Kingsley Moghalu. You're seeing, there are many candidates that are showing up, and we're seeing them. There's another guy, Buhari, that is out there. right?
Is he related to the current?
Ahmed Buhari. He's from Niger State.
Okay.
Buhari is from Katsina State.
Okay.
Speaking, I mean, that's a perfect segue because I think
just before you go ahead, sorry, we want to thank everybody who's logged in online, watching with us. If you can, please just hit the share button and share the link with your friends, your family. Just hit the share button, and we want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And please call in. The phone number is 202-681-0389. Again, it's 202-681-0389.
And it's a perfect segue because our next question is around the age-old problem of religion and tribe. Mm-hmm. How do we overcome this divide of religion and tribe in Nigeria? Because it's a stronghold. It is. But what do we have to do to overcome it?
The first thing I would like to say is that don't forget that the millennial generation, the millennials don't care about age and religion. Yeah. Okay. There is a portion of it of the people who have been led by the old guard. Mm-hmm. But remember that the people that form the disengaged, disenfranchised voter bloc, they are the people who on social media are friends with people that they don't care which tribe they're from. Many of these people don't even speak their own language. Many of them have never been to their hometowns, right? Many of them, probably go to their hometowns from time to time. I mean, I can see one person raising their hand. So there is a generation of Nigerians. Not Yoruba, not Hausa, not Igbo, not Fulani. They are Nigerians. That generation has not found expression. But I bet you that generation is the one that will speak to their parents. Because don't forget, their parents also started off at some point in time as Nigerians. When I was growing up, I didn't know where my friends were from. It didn't matter to me whether it was the Amechis or the Adegbomiris or none of those things mattered. I didn't know that there was a person who was a Yoruba man we all spoke English growing up because that is the language of Nigeria. The language of the language of a nation is the language in which the constitution is written. The language of a nation is the language in which the anthem is sung and the pledge is recited. It's the language in which the official correspondence of the nation is written. Right. The language of Nigeria is English. Now, what am I trying to say? I'm saying that there is a generation that is going to surprise the world by voting what I call merit, by voting what they perceive to be capacity to deliver results, not make promises. They've been listening to promises forever. They are going to look at leadership competencies as opposed to what you would think of as political experience.
So you mentioned earlier that there's a 40 million group in Nigeria that, didn't go out to cast their vote. How do you intend to reach that group?
Well, to be honest with you, there's a significant portion of them that are on social media, and the numbers on social media are quite interesting also. 145 million mobile phone users in Nigeria. Yep. Out of that, 98.5 million of them are connected to the internet. All right. So there is a place for the people on social media. However, we realize that people do not live on social media. Yeah. So what you do is you take social media and you give information to them and then give them direction on how they will take that information.
How about those in the villages and,
Oh, yeah. Again, there is a grassroots structure that we're building. All right. So, for instance, in just my campaign alone, and that's different from the party campaign, right? My campaign has what you call a structure that is national field operations, regional field operations, state operations, local government operations, ward operations, and then street champions.
Okay, so we have somebody on the line. Caller, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, good evening. This is Shawam Bajalu.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I am great. So I have a question for Mr. Fela. And, of course, I have tons of questions, but I'll save that till tomorrow. But it's great to feel your passion, Mr. Fela, and it's quite encouraging. So my question is, considering Nigeria is currently facing a systemic dysfunction, because what is your plan for systemic overall? Considering you're not going to be doing this by yourself. I mean, you're going to be a president, but with all of those people that are going to be surrounding you, how do you plan to do this? How do you plan to have a voice?
Thank you.
Thank you
and
very
I
much.
believe that's Sheon, isn't it?
Obajulu, yes.
Okay. Hi, Sheon. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you might notice that we started off with a very simple messaging, and that was, hey, my name is Fela Durotoye and I'm running for a new Nigeria. And essentially, people started to connect with that because we were saying, hey, to run for a new Nigeria, you have to do one of a few things. You either run to pledge to vote, or you run to be voted for. And what we're doing with the Running for the New Nigeria movement is that we're taking everything that I know and the things that I can learn about how to run, how to win, and how to deliver. Some of that work, Carl, I'm sure you remember, has been developed since 2011. Okay, it's a curriculum that teaches on leadership, on policy, on politics, and all of that, right? And we're essentially galvanizing people who will sign up to the same values, right? Some of those people are going to be running for Senate. Others are going to be running for House of Representatives. Others are going to be running for governor. Others are even going to be running for House of Representatives. But what's happening is that we're taking everyone and we're beginning to expose them. We're exposing them to trainings. We're exposing them to excursions. We're going to take them. The guys that are going for legislature, we're intending on bringing them to places like the United States. Or
Okay. Good evening. So we have another caller on the line. Can you introduce yourself, please? Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Hello?
Hello, yeah. Good morning, everyone in the house.
Good morning.
Good morning. I take it that you're calling from Nigeria because you said good morning. Hello?
No, I'm calling from Indonesia.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wow. Well, good morning to you. Can you please tell us your name?
Yeah, my name is Frank Nakodo, popular known as Frank Fanbo.
Okay.
So,
Frank?
I really appreciate your program, but one thing I have to contribute on this program right now is that I don't think that voting in Nigeria is the solution right now, because nothing is working in Nigeria right now. As you can see, everything is turning upside down in Nigeria. How can we be voting in a country that every blessing they will bring up story that snake swallow money, monkey swallow money? How can we be voting in that kind of country? That means maybe after 2019, the cows will swallow Nigeria as a whole.
Hopefully
so
not.
I don't think that the solution is to be voting again. So the only solution in Nigeria right now is to divide that country. Let every region go their way. Let everybody go their way. That is the only solution. For me, I don't think that my family is going to vote in Nigeria again.
Thank you so much. We'll let Mr. Fela let us know.
Animal kingdom. But right now, Nigeria is an animal kingdom. So
thank you, Mr. Frank. Let's let Mr. Fela tell us what he plans to do in that situation.
Right, before that, again, you're listening to Afrobeat Live with Fela Durotoye live here. We're sponsored by Afro Swag. You want more about Afro Swag? We'll post a link. Learn about Afro Swag. Again, one of our sponsors, but Fela Durotoye is here with us. Go ahead, sir.
Well, look, Frank is calling from Indonesia. I can promise you that if Nigeria was working, Frank could be or may not be in Indonesia. Clearly, Frank's disappointment with Nigeria is reflecting in everything that he's saying. And that is a valid disappointment. Yes. Remember that the reason why most people are disappointed with Nigeria is because nobody can understand how can such a blessed nation be so badly run and so, reflect such poor performance, as it were. But Frank, we have to remember something, and I hope you're listening to this, that you may never be able to determine what it is that is the nation that you inherit, but you will never be able to explain away to your children the nation that you bequeath to them. True. So if you give up on Nigeria, you are not giving up on Nigeria, you are giving up on your children. And your children may choose to give up on Nigeria or decide that they will not. But this is the point, though. There is only one way that true revolution takes place in the world today that is sustainable, and that is democracy. And the democratic process is where people will go and bring about change. Now, we have seen two governments in Nigeria emerge through the vote of the people. Goodluck Jonathan emerged because people wanted him at that time.
Correct.
Buhari emerged because people wanted change at that time.
Correct.
Now, that tells us something. By the time Buhari was elected president, no African president, incumbent, had ever lost an election. So that tells us something, that the voting process actually does work. Now, the question is not whether we should vote or not. The question is, who should we vote for? And what should we be voting for? Because today, Nigeria's voting is not just about personalities. It's about core understanding of ideology. It's about understanding the vision that I'm voting for. It's understanding the values I'm voting for. It's understanding the process, and most importantly, the plan of action that I'm voting for.
Fantastic.
So, Mr. Fela, so follow up to that, right? As we just saw, Frank called from...
Sorry, we have a caller on the line.
Okay.
Can you please go ahead and tell us your name and where you're calling from? Hello?
Yeah, my name is Onyeka Feinbo. I'm the last caller, so I just got to correct them. Understand?
Onyeka. Sorry, we called you Frank. Sorry about that. Onyeka, sorry. We got that. Thank you very much for calling us back.
So, Onyeka, not to be confused with Frank, calling from Indonesia. And I mean, now I think the stats say, 1 out of every 4 black people is Nigerian. So, Nigerians are everywhere. What can Nigerians in the diaspora or Nigerians abroad outside of Nigeria, what can they do to help?
Okay, well, so I tried to put it into what I call 3 E's, right? And I think it's just ease of remembrance.
Okay.
Number 1, I think Nigerians, especially in the diaspora, must remember the first thing is to encourage. Encourage the people that are trying to fix it. And whilst I appreciate Onyeka's passion and his pain and all of that, I tell you that it's a lot easier when you find people who will just say to you, it's not easy. This thing is not working. I commend you for trying to make it work. If it worked, it would be better for all of us. Because, for instance, if Indonesia did not work, I promise you Onyeka will not be in Indonesia. And I can promise you that the people who made Indonesia work were the people who believed in Indonesia that will work. There must have been people who would say Indonesia was a zoo and that Indonesia was not worth working for. But guess what? There must have been a few people who decided this is what it is that we're going to do. So the first thing is you must have people that would encourage. The second thing is that the people in diaspora are mostly enlightened people. So they've got the power of internet and all of that. You must enlighten other people. Okay? And so when you see somebody in diaspora that wants to go back home to run for office, encourage them. Tell them that, you know what, don't worry, I'll take care of the kids. I'll go and check your wife. I'll buy groceries. You're going on behalf of one else. That's one source of encouragement. Call the people at home who are going. Send an email. Send a DM. Whatever it is. Say, Fela, God bless you. Keep on going. That's encouragement. The enlightenment is take the data that you know. Put it on your own social media platforms. Talk about the things and the possibilities as you know them. Talk about what it is that is already happening in places and what can be done. Let Nigerians see more of what it is. The last one is empower. Okay? Empower them. Look, your $100 today may not make too much of a, but...
Oh, sorry. So we have a caller on the line. Can you please go ahead? Who's very determined to speak to us.
The next generation.
So just please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, my name is Tunde Toba. I'm calling from Canada.
Okay, Tunde.
Good evening, Mr.
Can you hear
Tunde.
me?
Yes, we can. Good evening, and thank you for calling
Okay,
in.
yeah. So I just want to make a quick contribution to what you guys are discussing, and I think this is for Mr. Fela. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is that right now, the situation in Nigeria, if we want to talk about it, it's so deep, and we're not going to even finish this discussion. And no matter what we've seen based on what has been happening in the last 4 years, whatever policies we try to put in place in Nigeria right now, we actually have people who would actually kick against those policies because they benefit a lot from the mess that's going on right now. So my question now is, if it happens, he actually become the president of Nigeria in 2019, we know Nigeria has been run by cabals, right? How would you address that? Because I feel that's even one of the major problems. If you can't address that, no matter policies you try to put in place, that country will not run. So that was just my question for Mr. Fela. If you can actually talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tunde, let me get straight to the point. Most cabals are people who feel that they have a right to take from the nation because of what they invested in the people that were running for office. So if you go and look at it, the time when the cabals take hold of the nation is not after the election, is before the election. That's when they go and they fund the people who are running for office. What we had said is, and it's very interesting, the laws of Nigeria has said nobody must actually be able to give you more than 1 million naira. If that law was followed through, as I intend to follow that law through, right, no one person will be able to say that I gave you enough money to own you. All right. The second thing is that we are actually going to get crowdfunding. And when you look at the kind of excitement that is going on today and the number of people who are calling to say, Fela, where can I don't have more than 2,000 naira. I don't have more than 3,000 naira, but I want to put my money in. The point is, listen, people buy good things and they are ready today. I can promise you that there is a generation of Nigerians that are ready to, in a way, pay for good governance. Remember that everyone who pays is the one who dictates the tune, right? So I always say this thing is a very interesting thing, right? When you go to the supermarket, you pay to get the things that you want, right? The person who pays is the person who gets served. You go to the gas station, you pay to get served. You go to whatever it is, you go to McDonald's, wherever it is, you pay to get served. But why is it that people think that a politician will come and pay you to serve you? And so essentially where the cabals get it right for themselves is that they pay. So let me put it in a way that I want you to remember. In 2019, we are going to have the largest cabal of any history. And it's going to be the cabal of the people. 180 million people cabal, right? That will have given their 100 naira, 200 naira. They are the people we're going to owe.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want more of this, Friday, 7 o'clock, Town Hall with Fela in person at 1300 Mercantile Lane, Suite 230, Lago, Maryland. Go to our link on Facebook. You see the posters there. Be there. This is too much for us on a Wednesday afternoon.
It can't be done in one day.
But seriously, I know you're all trying to call in. We're taking all the calls that we can. But please, if you want to meet him, come out on Friday. Be there with us to enjoy this and learn more about what this great man has for Nigeria.
So let me ask you this. You will agree with me that when you apply for a job, you're applying on the basis that you qualify for that job. You've never held the position, any political position. So what makes you think you're qualified for this job?
Well, because the truth be told, we have been lied to by those who have tried to keep everybody away that politics is what is required for governance. That's absolutely false. It's not political experience you require for governance, it's leadership experience. And leadership is service. So it's not public office that should be the most important thing that we're going to be talking about. Why? Because the first question you ask is, those people who have had public office have delivered to us the nation that today we're saying we no longer want. We want a new Nigeria. So if we want a new Nigeria, we cannot want a new Nigeria based on political experience. We want a new Nigeria based on leadership experience. And so when you want to look at leadership experience, what you try to do is to say, what leadership experience does Fela have outside the political framework, right? Or the political office? And almost compare that with anything that the other people that are running have done when they also did not have political office. Okay? Now, my track record is there to show the different projects that we've handled, the many organizations that we've helped to grow, to start, to grow. There's a particular book that I wrote called The 17 Secrets of High-Flying Students. There was a state government that was number 28 amongst the League of States, right? And they bought that book for all their SS2 students.
12 copies myself. My kids are reading it.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It's a good book to read, by the way. So
to cut the long story short, the children that we took on that throughout that took the exams in 2009, those guys went from number 28 in the League of States to number 4 in the League of States. So that tells you that we have been able to change and transform. And I mean, there's Mushi Makeover project that we painted 296 houses in one day for free. Basically, gathering people together. But you see, like I said, all of these things are whatever, they are projects.
Right.
The greatest thing you always have to do is look at the person and say, how has he led his life? Because if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anyone else.
All right,
How
let's
have you led
take
your
another
family?
call. We have another caller on the line. Caller, can you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Hello?
Hello. Good evening. My name is Ola, and I'm calling.
Sorry,
from,
what did you say your name is?
Ola.
Ola. Okay. Go ahead.
So first thing first, I want to thank Mr. Fela for standing up for Nigeria because it takes great courage to stand up and to decide to run for the presidency. So, but I have just one question: is that in a very divided country with so many religions and so many tribes, and looking at the present situation, like today we have Boko Haram, like we have Niger Delta Avengers and all that. So how do you plan to unite a broken country? That is my question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ola.
Great
Amazing question you asked.
Great question.
Right? First of all, let me say that the truth is Nigerians are united around their desires, their needs, and their aspirations. Every Nigerian wants things to work. Every Nigerian wishes that they would get up, go to a job that not only pays them well, but they are happy to do, that uses their talents, that they're growing. Every Nigerian, to the best of my knowledge, would like their kids to do well. There's nobody that doesn't want to personally prosper and enjoy good success in Nigeria. So let's understand that at the heart and at the core of who every Nigerian is a desire to do well and a desire to be a part of a great nation. Right. Every Nigerian wants that, whether you are from wherever you are or whatever you believe in. And that is the first thing you're going to have to do, is unite the people around a common purpose, which is to say, this is why we are together for now. This is the nation we are trying to build. Think about houses, think about nations as like houses, right? You know, you would find out when you're building a house, different people come from different places with different skills. But the first thing that they do is they want to know, what does the house look like? Right. What does the finished house look like? So that if I'm going to be a carpenter, I want to know what is the design of the house. If I'm a plumber, I still want to know what is the design of the house. What I'm going to do may be different from what the carpenter would do, but we are all, in a sense, building according to one template. And so the first most important thing that is important is for us to describe and articulate the new Nigeria in a way that is plain and clear to everyone. And then secondly, more importantly, to help people to understand what kind of values is it that we would need to live together to be able to articulate. And I can share, if you don't mind, very quickly, the 10 values that we are proposing. And I would ask you right now on this table, and everybody listening to me, you tell me if any of these values violate your own personal code. And if it doesn't, and you would like your children to say so, you just say with me, yes or no, okay? Number 1, make a positive impact on everyone you meet and everywhere you go.
Yes.
Yes. Tayo, I'm waiting for you.
Yes, sir.
Good. Number 2, be a solution provider and not a part of the problem to be solved.
Yes, sir.
Number 3, be a role model worthy of emulation.
Absolutely, yes.
Number 4, be your best in all you do, particularly the things you're naturally good at.
Yes.
Number 5, do the right thing at all times, regardless of who's doing the wrong thing.
Yes.
Number 6, value time and make the best use of it.
Absolutely.
Number 7, care and show respect to all through your words and your actions.
Absolutely.
Number 8, consciously build a great legacy starting now, today, and every day. Number 9, live a life of integrity and honor.
Absolutely.
And number 10, make your family, your nation, and your God proud.
Absolutely.
Now, this is what each and every one of us will have. Now, it does. Carl, you're from what? Delta State?
Yeah.
Right? Tayo, you're from
Lagos
State. I don't know, but the point is, it doesn't even matter where you're from. Do you know that there is nobody, Fulani, Igbo, Ibibio, Kanuri, Hausa, wherever, there is no one that would say to you that these values violate my personal belief or my religious belief. So you find out you have something that unites us together. And the question is, if we then have that common unity, which is where you get the word community from, once you have that basis for common unity, guess what's going to happen? Do you think that the world would like to do business with Nigerians if they know that Nigerians are people who make a positive impact?
Okay, so you just touched on a touchy subject for me. You said the world and you said Nigeria. The average person outside of Nigeria has this belief that most Nigerians, if not all Nigerians, are 419. Yeah. How do you plan to change that perception?
Before we have a call coming in,
okay.
We'll get the call.
Sure.
We'll answer the question. So you have two questions.
Hello. Caller, good evening. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mise. I'm calling from Canada. So I have a question for the guest. I was wondering, during the 2015 election, the guest, Mr. Fela, actually campaigned for Buhari. And we have seen the mess we've gotten ourselves into. So how can a leader like himself, who campaigned for this bad government, now come and wants to run for the same position? How will he not make the same kind of mistake? Or if he makes such a mistake, how can he correct such a mistake so that it doesn't taint his character?
Okay. Well, so Mife, I'm going to ask you.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask you one question. Okay. Can you remember anywhere that you heard me campaign for Buhari? Can you remember any post? Hold on. Can you remember any post that you saw with which I campaigned for Buhari? Because I should believe that it would be online. Can you remember anybody, including yourself, that said that Fela Durotoye was the one that told me about Buhari? Do you know anybody? And I'll tell you why I asked that question. Because it is a narrative that was put out there. They put myself and a few guys in one box and said, these guys campaigned for Buhari. Do you know, and I think I told you that question, that in 2014, I was about to send one text, I remember, and I saw a finger right in front of my mouth, and the finger said, shh. And for that reason, I never, ever said one thing towards the election. I never said one thing against Goodluck Jonathan. I never said one thing for him. I never said one thing against Buhari. I never said one thing for him. People were putting me under pressure to give guidance, to say, tell us who to vote for. The only thing I put out there, because of that instruction, the only thing I put out there was I put out a post and it said, vote your values.
Yes.
Now, there is this, this, I don't even begin. It's something that has been put out there, but I ask, and I keep saying it, the people who put it out there deliberately put it out there to misinform people. But I say, look, we are a smart generation. By now, somebody should have said, we should have seen a text that Fela Durotoye sent. We should have seen a tweet. We should have seen a Facebook, or a video of something that he said about Buhari. It should have been out there. But not one person has put out a video. Not one person has put out a text. Not one person has put out a tweet to say Fela Durotoye convinced me. Nobody has said Fela convinced me to vote for somebody. But there is this thing that people are saying, Fela convinced the youth people. I wish I was that powerful. But I'm not. But but the most important thing is that I think it was very interesting because the narratives have been out there for a while and I didn't say anything about it. And I think that it kept on growing, but I didn't say anything about it. But the point that I'm making is, and I'm still asking, I'm throwing it out there. Before you believe anything, you're a smart generation. Do your research. I think it's the most important advice I want to give to young people. There is a lot of of what I call old politicking going on even in the hearts of the new generation, right? And old politicking, essentially what it does is character assassination. They would lie against you. They would say things that are untrue, hoping that you continue to follow their path in any way. So they lie against you and hope that you go and try and clear that. So you go off message and then they tell another lie. For instance, there's another one that has just been out there that says, I said Buhari saved Nigeria in 2015. It is a lie. Nobody has anywhere in the world that will show that Fela said Buhari saved Nigeria. I did say that Nigeria was on the brink of economic collapse.
Yep.
But Carl, you're a consultant.
Yep.
Is this true or not?
It's absolutely true.
This is what the world told us. I am not in the government, but the world told us. The Buhari, Goodluck Jonathan government did not dispel those things when they were out there. So if the world said to us, if everybody says to us, Nigeria, literally, we literally are and then I say Nigeria was on the brink of collapse, and I said that Nigeria had been through 16 years of institutionalized corruption. That is not just an institutionalized corruption because of PDP. Which government do we know? Institutionalized corruption is taking place at the local government. It's taking place at the state government. It's taking place at the federal government. So when I say that Nigeria has been through institutionalized corruption, nobody should be able to argue that.
Okay, so why we need the change. That's why we need the change.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
But there is a narrative, and this is the only thing I'm going to just leave with behind. Guys, listen, we will never do things. I think it was Albert Einstein that said, if we continue to do the same thing the same way and expect different results, then it is madness. It's not sane. We have to do things differently.
So someone posted a question, a comment on our Facebook page, and they said they don't think that Buhari is the problem. They said they believe that the Congress is twisted and his hands are basically tied, is what the person is saying. So if you become president, how do you intend to?
So the first most important thing is that you have to identify really where the problem is. And the problem is what I call this system that selects candidates and causes people to elect them. And that system is called selectocracy. That's the name I have given to it.
Selectocracy.
Selectocracy is the opposite of democracy.
Word of the day.
Now, basically what you're saying is, what this means is that people within the political parties, there are godfathers who own or have bought delegates. They position those delegates, and then during conventions, they use those delegates to, in a sense, decide who it is that will become the candidate amongst the aspirants. Most of the times, they will say to you, Fadike, go and sit down. You, Carl, you will be the next local government chairman. You, T, go and, okay, after Carl, you will be the one, then but this thing about power brokers having the power to tell somebody, you go and you stay, is the core issue in which Nigeria is dealing with. And there is a consequence to this, but it seems like there's so many calls coming in, and we need to deal with it.
Right. Again, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget Friday, again, town hall meeting, 7 p.m. Okay?
All right, caller, we have someone on the line. Can you please tell us your name and where you're calling from? Good evening.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you please tell us your name and where you're calling from?
Please turn your either your phone or your Facebook volume down. That's why there's interference.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Just turn this volume down.
Okay, we lost the caller. Call us back.
Fella, again.
Go ahead.
ANN, your party. Explain to us why them and not PDP or APC or whoever else. Why them?
Simple.
And what do they stand for?
Simple. ANN is a party of that says we just want to be the difference, and we want to make a difference.
So what is ANN again? Can you
ANN stands for Alliance for New Nigeria. Okay. And prior to ANN, I believe I started a few minutes ago. I shared with you how I even started on this journey because two political parties had reached out to me asking me to be a consensus candidate. I did not choose those parties because of the same thing I just spoke to you about. That if it is possible for a party to make me a president or presidential candidate, that means they can make a thief a governor. That means they can make a thief a senator. What I didn't want was any party that will give me their candidacy. I wanted a party that will give me a free and fair field upon which I and anybody else can compete and debate, and the best person will be sure to win. I didn't want a party where things would be slided against me or will be in my favor. And the only party that I met that really guaranteed me that was ANN. Okay? And ANN said from the onset, we would love to have you. You are the kind of person we're looking for. We're looking for technocrats who have political wisdom, who have capacity to inspire, who have an idea, who have a track record of leadership and public service. But we cannot guarantee that you will emerge as the candidate. What we can guarantee is that it would be a free and fair election. It will be transparent. The whole world will see it. And so basically what the difference between ANN and most of the other parties that you know is that it is members of ANN that are going to vote for their candidates. Pretty much like the way you see it in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Listen to this, the delegates can only represent the outcome of the voters.
Okay.
So the delegates are not going to go to the convention and start any kind of horse trading. The delegates are not the ones in ANN that are going to choose. It's going to be the people, and the delegates will carry the voice of the people to the convention. So pretty much like the way that, take a look like whether it was Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, I can't, please forgive me if I don't get the states right, but let's say, for instance, that Obama won Ohio. I'm just saying, I can't remember whether he did or not. Let's say Obama won Ohio, but the delegates, one of the delegates, as there will be more than one delegate, that goes to the convention, voted for Hillary Clinton. That delegate cannot get to the convention and vote Clinton. The delegate will vote for the person that the people agreed. This is how you actually get what is called the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. This is the key thing that I have been working on up till now. And this is what it is, that by the time we're done with the work that I'm doing, every single party in Nigeria will have what you call membership voting. We are working to make sure that even within the existing political parties, remember that there are more people that are suffering for this selectocracy within the established parties. And we're saying, you rise up. ANN is showing you a way. There are a few other parties that are also promising to have internal democracy, right? But the point that I'm asking is, Nigerians, don't just decide that you will vote. Go and join a party where your vote counts. And this is a message particularly to the diasporans. Right now, diasporans don't have the ability to vote. Now, we know that there is a bill in the House that has just been presented by Senator Murray Bruce that will, if passed, give diasporans the right to vote. But that would be amazing, isn't it? But this is the most important thing. Right now, diasporans cannot vote. But right now, diasporans can join parties. ANN, for instance, just as an example, is you can register online. Diasporans that are within parties can choose the candidate that will be represented at the ballot box, that will represent them. So this is the one thing I want diasporans to understand, that to be a part of the elections in 2019, join a party that shares your values and vote for a candidate that you would like to support.
Fantastic.
All right, so we have another caller on the line. Can you please tell us your name and where you're calling from, please?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Kunle Ogumola. Carl, how are you? Tai, how are you?
Muski, good to hear from you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Kunle Ogumola.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kunle.
We can hear you.
We hear you very clear. We're well.
Hi,
Thank
how
you.
are you?
Yeah.
Fela, it's nice to hear from you.
Hi, Kunle. Thank you so much for calling in.
My question to Fela is this. Fela, the last time, how are you? The last time we spoke at length, and you had encouraged me to come to Nigeria and everything. Yes. Now my question is this. The basic restructuring of Nigeria, I believe that the Constitution needs amendments. we know that there was a constitutional conference a couple of years ago, but it never came to light. How do you intend to galvanize the restructuring along with amending of the Constitution to be able to enable citizens of Nigeria know exactly what it is that they are? Because a lot of people do not understand what it is to be a citizen. The basic fundamental human rights they do not know. How do we get those into those schools and educate people?
Okay.
Amazing.
On their rights.
Fantastic. Muski, let me stay. Right. Thank you. Brilliant question Kunle has asked. And this issue of restructuring is something that has come up severally. And I would like to say, no doubt about it, there is a need for several, dimensions of what we call restructuring. So for instance, the truth about it is that there is so much that resources that is held at the center and very little that is spread to the people that affect, or to the layers of governance that affect the lives of the people the most. And the most important one, as you know, is the local government. The local government is the one responsible for pretty much all the primary schools, public schools. The local government is responsible for clearing of drainages, for tarring of most roads, for street lights, for refuse disposal. Things like that are all local government. And when you look at the way that the current system has been working, the local government, money for local government is usually given to the governor, who then decides to a large extent how much of it he wants to give to the local government chairman. And most of the time, because the governor is the one who also creases the local government chairman or selects the chairman, right? The chairman literally just gets the little that is given to him and says, "Thank you so much, Your Excellency." That has to change. You have to make sure that there is a completely independent process by which local governments are going to get their money. But more importantly, make sure that local governments are able to account for the money that they get. The federal government, let me quickly say something, and I know there are many callers that are coming. There is nowhere in the country that is called Nigeria. If you go to one place, they will say to you, "I'm in Apapa." You go to another place, they'll say, "I'm in Kaduna." They'll go to another place, they'll say, "I'm in Yenagoa." There is nowhere that you would say, "What is the name of this town?" They will say it's Nigeria. So what is Nigeria? Nigeria is an identity and a standard that you're supposed to be able to apply over the geographical borders and boundaries of this nation that we have all so far agreed to be a part of. So for instance, the work of the federal government should be about setting standards and ensuring those standards are spread across Nigeria. So for instance, the government should be saying in primary schools, there should be no more than 22 students per class or 16 students per class. And then Ministry of Education is going around and making sure that there is no primary school in Nigeria that has more than every primary school meets that standard. The government should be saying, this is the kind of signages that we're going to use, and this is the font. This is how it will be. This is the height of signage. And you go across. So whether you are in Abia or you are in Anambra or you are in Adamawa, it's the same signage you see. The street lights should be the same colors. It should be the same height. That means when you come into that space, you should see a standard. And that standard ideally should be a standard of excellence. It means houses should be built, but doors should be the same size. It means that you can say do you see where I'm coming from? The idea is that the federal government is supposed to set standards, but empower and give the finances to the people, whether it's the state or the local government directly. Now, that is what you call fiscal restructuring. Today, we can find ways, whether or not the Senate allows that to happen, today we can find ways to make those things happen. But the thing I wanted to touch on was really what Kunle touched on. I believe that beyond all of the levels of restructuring which should take place, right? One of them is, for instance, how much of our resources should be given as a derivative to the places where those resources are taken from.
Correct.
Today, most of the mineral resources in Nigeria, the state don't even want you to touch them. They don't want them to be mined. They don't want them to be developed. So when we're talking about diversifying our economy, right? Most of the states don't want you to touch their solid minerals because they believe that if you touch it, the money is going back into the federation or the federal account, right? And that money will not come back to them. Right. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Correct.
All right, caller. Can you please tell us your name and where you're calling from?
Oh, my name is Ola. I'm calling from Dallas, Texas.
From Dallas. Ola from Dallas, okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead with your question.
Hi, am I home with Fela, man?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Ola.
Hi, Fela. My name is Ola. I remember we met some years back, my days at GT Bank in Nigeria, where you facilitated a training. And you mentioned on that day your ambition, your vision to be the president of Nigeria. Huh? When I heard recently that you declared your candidacy, I was like, oh my God, this is actually becoming like a reality. However, I know, I'm sure you're aware that you're going to be fighting against some establishment in politics in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And some of it have said it's not possible. We have a system, of governing that they move from now to south and blah, blah, blah. I have been arguing against it. And I'm sure the kind of person I know you are. I mean, having been under some of your speeches, I know the kind of person you are. My question to you is, how do you intend to break down the establishment who have said this is not possible? Because, Southern was just a president a few years ago. How can this guy be a president? How do you intend to break into the northern zone where right now they're probably not giving you any chance because you are from the south?
Okay.
I just want to hear from you. I know people even at my age, young guys like me, that have already written you up, already saying, no, it's not possible. This guy can, I know of a particular word that we use in my group where they say, you have to climb the ladder. You can't get to the top without the ladder. Let him start from, local government, let him go to state. And I have argued against it. You just need a way to break down the establishment.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ola, for calling in with your question. Let's give Mr. Fela the chance to answer.
Thank you, Ola. It was Nelson Mandela that said something really amazing. He said, it always seems impossible until it's done.
Yeah.
Right? And there's never been anything that has ever been great, whether it was the airplane that people thought was possible. Right. Everything that has ever been significant was thought impossible at some point in time until it was done. Right. Ola, 2019 is coming. We will see that this one too will be done. Why? Because this is how it works, right? The people are larger in number than the establishment. What has always happened is that we did not create alternative platforms and then mobilize enough people. Because the people who were trying to run for office. What most people still don't understand is that Fela is not just trying to be a president. I am a trigger. And in being a trigger, what I'm doing is I'm getting our brightest and best people to run for every level. And this is what is the most amazing thing. And secondly, we also have a political platform called ANN that is doing what was thought previously to be impossible.
Yeah.
So now ANN is showing it. And ANN is not necessarily the only one, right? But the other ones are also going to be coming up. And you know what's going to happen? Is that the more we have the ANNs of this world showing up, the more others will want to become like it until the establishment become the only ones that are still doing things the old way. Right. Now, I promise you, if in the next 6 months, mark my words, if in the next 6 months, the establishment don't start giving voting rights to their members, most of the people that are within the establishment will start finding expression on other parties like ANN and all of that, right? But this is the point that I'm making, that there will be, the people will depart in droves. I know 2 guys, right, who were told to go and sit down 2 days before election primaries in the last local government elections in Lagos State.
So
right? Those guys have such a following. They've never been in political office. Those guys, I can promise you, there's going to come a point in time. If those guys don't find expression, they will go to the parties where they will find expression.
So, Fela, you're saying to me, you're not only running for the office, but you're also trying to be a catalyst for change in Nigeria.
I am essentially trying to catalyze a change that will bring in the involvement of people who should be running for office and bring in the involvement of the people who will vote for them. I started a movement around and the conversation around getting PVCs sometime last year around October. There has never been a time in the history of Nigeria that 1 year to elections, the fervor for getting PVC has been as much as now. Right. It didn't happen by chance.
I'm going to get my next
right?
PVC.
PVCs are permanent voters cards with which you can vote. You can even vote also with your temporary voters card, but over time you need to have it as a permanent, so you don't have to renew it with every election. Okay. But the point that I'm making is that what we are seeing today is a situation where people are seeing the impossible. They may not realize how much impossible it is, but we are seeing the impossible. We are beginning to see INEC, for instance, get under pressure to begin to try to see how they will clean up their process so that children can no longer vote, as we are beginning to see. So my point is very simple, is that what was presumed to be impossible is now no longer just possible, it's likely to be the certainty, right? And I haven't answered the thing on Northern Zone, but
ladies and gentlemen, we have about 10 minutes left in the program. Again, on Friday we're going to have a town hall where you can meet him in person. So if you want to ask more questions, there's always a Friday at 7 p.m. You can see the flyer that's on our Facebook page right now. So we have about 10 minutes left. There are a few questions we want to ask Fela while he's here. Let's answer the phone call. Okay.
Hello? So, caller, can you tell us your name and where you're calling from, please?
My name is Folari. I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Folari.
Good evening.
I can tell you.
Go ahead with your question.
So my question is, actually, it's a lot of things that I need to ask. So
we have 2 minutes.
You only have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So
okay, that's fine.
Try and put it all together.
My question. There's been a lot of people in the past who have come up and tried to do the same thing Mr. Fela is doing right now, and they have been unsuccessful. I'm 100% behind his idea, but I think what we need right now, we need a lot of people with his mindset to start at the local level so we can take over the local level where the immediate impact can be felt in Nigeria. For you to be a president in Nigeria or be a senator, you have to join them. We cannot win election on social media or how popular you are on social media. Everybody was a nice person. We thought that should be the right candidate for president. Fashola too, we didn't get people like that. So I'm saying, let's start at the local level. Let's radically take over the local level.
Okay.
Take over every local level that is possible in Nigeria.
All right. Thank you very much for your comment.
All right. Well, Folari, I'll try and make it as simple as I can quickly, is to say, look, remember, Folari, I'm not running as one candidate. Maybe that's the first thing you have to see. I'm running as only a head of a train. And we are galvanizing people at all the local levels to be able to make this movement work. Okay? So that's the first thing that you need to understand, Folari, that there are going to be local government chairmen, but local government elections are not even going to happen until 2020 for much of the local government, because they just did a local government election in 2017, most of the local government elections. So the point that I'm making here is this. There is a myth that most people have, thinking that you have to be able to, in a way, go from local government to governor. Fashola was never a local government chairman, right? Yeah. And he became a governor. But again, Fashola was selected. Okay, so you find that. The second one is that you'd probably look. Buhari was never a local government chairman, right? And we can go on and on and on, right? And say, listen, let's be careful on this myth that we have been sold. What we're trying to do is to say, how do we get people that you like, the kind of people that you support. How do we get enough of them at every level, local, state, and federal, elective and legislative? How do we do that? That is what I am doing. My job is to gather those people and be able to, some of those people may come to ANN, and I pray almost all of them will, if they sign up to our values and then they buy into the same vision and the roadmap, but some of them may decide to go on other platforms. It doesn't matter to us. What matters the most is that we have a critical mass, which is that of good people that run for office, that nobody can argue with. So don't distract yourself. Fela may not even emerge as the presidential candidate of ANN. Remember that. It's not about Fela Durotoye. Folarin, remember what I just said. This journey is not about Fela Durotoye. Success is not about whether Fela Durotoye wins the election or not. If we are able to get a critical mass of good people who will run in state houses of assembly, who will run for governor, who will run for senate, who will run for House of Representatives, who will even run for presidency, and upstage the establishment, Fela has already won, whether Fela became president or not. Right. If we get 40 million new people who usually before did not engage in the electoral process to go and get their PVC, join a party where they can vote, and then vote, Fela has already won. My job is to create the change. That is my job. Don't focus, don't get fixated on this matter of whether Fela becomes president or not. There may be a better candidate that will come on ANN, and by just the way that the party will vote that candidate. That is what I want. If a better candidate can come up than Fela, let that party person come on ANN. I don't own the platform. It's a free and fair platform. Let the person come on. And if the person doesn't want to come on ANN, go on any other party. What I believe is that Nigerians will vote for the best candidate. Yeah. And this is what I am triggering. And so, Ola, I want you to remain focused. Don't get distracted by this issue of whether Fela should run, Fela should not run. What Fela is running for is a new Nigeria. What Fela is trying to trigger is people to be committed to making that new Nigeria work. That is what we should be focusing on. And if we can get that to work, then I have won. Whether or not I even showed up on the bar.
Ladies and gentlemen, Friday, make it a date. More of this from Fela. Go ahead.
So for those of us, online, please join NA support group. Follow North America. Thank you. Support group. Yeah. And follow FD 2019. North America.
Okay, and very quickly just to say that, look, in following Fela Durotoye, what you're doing is you're saying, Fela, you are championing a change process, and I'm joining that process. Whether or not Fela becomes the presidential candidate or not is not the issue. It's whether Fela can champion this process and bring forth the brightest and best presidential candidates at every level. Just a quick one before we close. I know we've got just a few minutes to go. This, just earlier today, a former deputy governor of Central Bank, Kingsley Moghalu, right, announced his candidacy for presidency in 2019. Typically, someone would expect that since he's gunning for the same office as I'm gunning for, he has become my competitor. Yeah. I put up his poster, the picture that he's using as his advert. I put it up on my Twitter, on my Instagram and my Facebook, and I congratulated him. And I was sharing on that. The messaging was that we must find ways to collaborate together to get the people to go out and get their PVCs. But I also said something that was very important. I said our generation must move away from this old politics of rivalry, competition, and character assassination. Yeah. I said we need to come into this new politics that will birth a new Nigeria. It's a new politics of collaboration. It's a new politics of getting people congratulating and encouraging each other, because the more of us that have a heart for Nigeria, the better the chances that one of us will win. Yeah. So this is why I put it up. And people were saying, oh my God, Fela, we've never seen this kind of thing happen in Nigeria before. People would have thought it was impossible for one person to wish for other people to come in, but it's happening. The same way, I want you to know it will happen. We are going to build Nigeria, and Nigeria needs mental restructuring.
Absolutely.
That is all of what is going on, is part of the restructuring of the minds of the people. And Carl, I believe you also know, the values that I shared with you today, those 10 values that you said you like, in over 313 schools in Nigeria, we have volunteers that for the last 4 years have been going to teach those values. They've taught them to teachers, taught them to students at no cost. Volunteers. In those schools, the students recite 2 of those values each every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. First 2 on Monday, the next ones until, and then they have what you call values clubs, where they choose a value for the week, and it could be value time and make the best of use of it. And then they begin to find, how are we going to use dance, drama, music, art, and poetry to drive that value through the school. So now, the Association of Private Educators of Nigeria have already endorsed those 10 values. Right? The Mortgage Bankers Association of Nigeria has endorsed the values. In 28 mortgage banks across Nigeria, their HR managers have already been trained. They are driving the values through those mortgage banks. Right? But that's not all. The Nigerian Institute of Mechanical Engineers have also endorsed the values. Now, what am I trying to say? You can see that the values are being adopted. Anambra State government adopted the values and said they've translated it into Igbo. In every government office in Anambra State now, you see the 10 values in Igbo. In every school in Anambra State, every Monday, they recite those 10 values in now. The government of Lagos State, a couple of years ago, trained 500 of their top civil servants on those 10 values. What am I trying to say? Without any office, we are already doing what typically the national orientation should do. Yes. This is leadership, not office. That's not public office. That's public service. And this is what I'm trying to say. You look at the track record, you see what we've done without office, and I think that it's important.
Fantastic. Fela, this is amazing. For all those, we have like a few minutes left, and we'll give Fela a last few comments to make. But please don't forget on Friday, come and join us for a town hall meeting out at 1300 Mercantile Lane, Suite 230, Largo, Maryland. Right, a special town hall meeting from 7 p.m. onwards, in person. Fela Durotoye, the 2019 Nigeria presidential aspirant. Join us. Fela, any last words for us before we sign up for the evening?
Well, let me say it this way. I would remind you, we have a blessed nation that we've been given. God gave the nation to us. God didn't ask Nigeria's permission before he blessed us with mineral resources, with natural resources, with human resources. We are a blessed nation. There's nothing we can do to deny that. But what we have to do is to understand that the time has come for us to accept responsibility to build the nation that we want. We can no longer continue to blame the previous generation for the nation we're going to hand to our children. Yes. We can only blame them for the nation we have received. But we have to now arise and believe in ourselves and commit our time and our energy and encourage the people who are doing it to go forth and do it. So I would ask you, since when you've been doubting Nigeria, how has it changed? The time to stop doubting has come. This is the time for you to choose between our past and our future. And we cannot do the same thing we were doing before to get into our future. Our future is bright, our future is waiting for us, but the choice has to be made now. And I'm going to remind you of those 4 questions. Number 1, are you happy with the way Nigeria is? Answer me in your heart. Are you happy? I believe the answer is no. Number 2, do you want a better Nigeria that you will be proud of? Yes. The answer is yes. The number 3, do you think it is possible within the conduit and the context of all the blessing of Nigeria that we can have a better nation than what we have today? Possible. The answer is possible. Yes. The next thing is, what are you going to do? Well, the thing you will do is as follows. If you are in Nigeria or you have the capacity to vote, it is go and get your voter's card and pledge to vote. Number 2, if you can run for office and you have a good heart for Nigeria, decide that you want to run for office. If you don't have a platform to run, come to Alliance for New Nigeria. If you are truly someone who wants to run and you want to really serve, you don't want to rule over Nigeria, you want to lead, I want you to think of coming to the Alliance for New Nigeria. Number 3, do this thing that I consider to be the most important one. Go and join a party that your vote will be able to determine the candidate. You can do that even from the United States. You don't have to be in Nigeria. If you go to www.alliancefornewnigeria.org, I'm going to say that again. I hope everybody is writing this down. www.alliancefornewnigeria.org. Go there and see what the party stands for. Don't doubt something you have not researched.
Yeah.
Right? In the time of our parents, they didn't have the power of information, of communication and technology. Today, we have the power and the technology to give us information and to give us the ability to communicate. Use that technology to do your research.
Yeah.
Before you say Fela Durotoye said something, because you read it somewhere, go and check. Before you say there can be no party that will be able to overrun PDP, and it doesn't matter, go and check. Most importantly, I want to see you at the town hall meeting.
Yeah.
It'll be the most important thing for me. And so if you can come, it will make my day. It will be one of the ways in which you would encourage me. I love your tough questions. I think that we would have enough time for me to answer all those questions at the town hall. And we can also build a relationship going up from there where we can always continue with this. But I really want to say thank you to Afrobeat Live for having me here. I want to thank Pastor Tychus of Abundant Life Church for inviting me. Thank you, Carl, my dear friend who has always been there. We've been running for a new Nigeria since 2011 or so. And Fadeke, the absolutely beautiful, gorgeous Fadeke, and I would say happy birthday to your husband.
Thank
you. Thank you so much, everyone, for connecting and for joining me today. I may not have answered all your questions because of the kind of time that we have. But I wish that we would have more time at the town hall, and I hope to be able to answer most or all of your questions as much as I can.
On behalf of everybody here at Afrobeat Live, on behalf of myself and my co-host, I would like to say a huge thank you to you for joining us tonight. I mean, we do not take it for granted. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to Friday. If this is an indication of what's to come, we're excited, and you definitely have my vote, and I'm sure you have the vote of.
So I say it this way: together, we will deliver the future that we carry in us. Absolutely. The future of Nigeria is not ahead of us; it's inside of us. Mm-hmm. Together, we'll deliver it. And please go to www.Alliance for New Nigeria and go and check it out. If you find something that reflects with you, join. You can sign up online. It's about 3 minutes to join. Be a part of something great. Thank you very much.
See you Friday.
Thank you.
Friday. God bless.
Friday.
Good night.